And welcome into another episode of NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network, presented by FloRacing from the Concord Studios just north of Charlotte, North Carolina. Once again, I'm Chris Wilner and Kyle Rickey from up north in Killingly, Connecticut, counting down to the start of the Stafford Motor Speedway season. What are we at, 3 weeks now? 2 weeks?
4 weeks, April 23rd, 24th.
Oh my gosh,
so we're about
Kyle.
a month out.
Can they just open already? The
Tell me
anticipation for
about
the
it.
Spring Sizzler is just killing me.
Tell me about it. But the entries continue to pour in. Got some big announcements here in the next week or so about some, I guess, surprise entries that are coming up from the South. So going to be fun. Can't wait.
Now, we can talk more about this during Spring Sizzler week, but you were just showing us before the show some big improvements, not only at the racetrack, but for the fans to consume. What do you got over there?
Little double hook lager.
Wow. Stafford Motor Speedway stepping up their A game this year.
With the Champions Can, and they just released their first set of trading cards.
Wow. So make sure you get a hold of those folks. Get on up to yeah, exactly. Get on up to Stafford Motor Speedway for sure. When they finally open here in a month. So we're counting down because it's 75 degrees and sunny down here. We're racing already a couple weeks into the season, Kyle. You guys are just behind.
Well, our seasons are shorter.
Yeah.
But we make the most of that time.
Oh, you guys pack it in.
I'll tell you that right now. So, we need a few more degrees outside, a few more sunny days.
Yeah.
It's about 52 today. We can get that up to about 62, 65 here in the next couple of weeks. We'll be in good shape.
Perfect. Well, we'll dive right into it. We'll kick it off with an ARCAEast second round of their 2022 season happened this past weekend at Five Flags Speedway in Pensacola, Florida, the General Tire 150. And Sammy Smith wins again, 2 for 2 in the East, Kyle. We bookmarked it when we first previewed the ARC Menard series, and so far it's almost deja vu for Sammy.
Really good race. Was able to watch after our coverage of the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Went out to the Atlanta airport for a red eye and was able to hang with some of the guys in the airport and watch the event. Great race between Sammy Smith and Taylor Gray. A lot of lead changes. Leland Honeyman, who finished second, led some of the race as well. Swapped the top spot several times. A lot of caution flags, mainly for single car spins, a couple right in front of the leaders. So they got lucky a couple of times. But yeah, Sammy able to pick up the race win. Second consecutive, dominated New Smyrna, and had a good showing this past Saturday night at Pensacola after Taylor Gray had a late race restart penalty or restart violation. So good show. I think it's gonna come down to Sammy and Taylor most of the season. Those are the guys that we're going to be talking about whenever the ARCAEast East Series hits the racetrack.
And we will be talking to Sammy Smith. He'll actually be on the line here coming up in the second part of our show, so be sure to stick in for that. But you mentioned Taylor Gray, the restart violation. Is mistakes like that going to be maybe something to come back and haunt him here if this championship goes down to the final race?
It could be, especially when you have 2 or 3 guys running for the championship. I mean, every point's going to count, every position's going to count, and right now Taylor's behind. Fell short at the season opener at New Smyrna, fell short here after leading much of the race. In fact, finished third behind Honeyman. So, those precious 2 or 3 points in a short season already. That mistake could be what determines, his end of season result, whether he's the champion or not, when we get down to it in September.
And you mentioned Leland Honeyman. I got to give him a shout out. I think he's shocked everybody winning the pole. And then he was running top 5 the entire race, finishing runner up, his career best in the ARC Menard series. So, I mean, He's got to be somebody that could be a sleeper pick here coming up, especially if this confidence, which I'm assuming right now is sky high.
Absolutely, especially on the short track. The series goes to Dover next at the end of April. He's not going to be my top pick at Dover. He might be in the top 3 or 4, but I think, Sammy Smith is a favorite. He's run there before. Taylor Gray has run there before. Those two, I think, will again be the 2 to beat. I'm not sure if any outsiders will enter the race, but I think Leland, it's going to be a learning experience for him when we get to the Monster Mile next month. But when we get back to some of these half-mile, quarter-mile short tracks, mainly half-mile for the East, no doubt. I think he's our next first-time winner.
Absolutely. So we'll keep an eye on that. But like Kyle mentioned, Friday, April 29th. So a little bit of a break here before we see the ARCAEast tackle Dover with the Dover 125. That will be live on Flow on April 29th at 5:30. We had him on the show, 3 weeks ago, Corey Heim talking ARCA. He went out and made a dramatic pass in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race that we covered live on the Motor Racing Network. Last lap pass on his teammate Chandler Smith. Those two short guys going after it, and he gets his first career Truck Series win. That's got to be pretty special, Kyle, especially for somebody we've watched kind of grow up literally right before our very eyes, get a NASCAR major National Series win.
Yeah, we've watched him for several years now, coming up through the short tracks, an 8-time ARCA Menard Series winner, and doing well on the big tracks as well. In his fifth truck start, I believe it was his fifth truck start, has a little bit of help on the final lap from a teammate that's not on the lead lap, which stirred up some controversy there on during post race. But in John Hunter Nemechek talking about that Ford truck, but he was able to push Corey to the race win, and in a dramatic opener to a dramatic weekend at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. The NASCAR Camping World Trucks never disappoint, but man, what a race to debut that new facility, and congratulations to Corey. And we talked about it when we talked to him a few weeks ago, a driver that we're going to be talking a lot about for a lot of years to come at the top levels of this sport. And, he made Kyle Busch proud the other night.
Absolutely. And an amazing race, too, as Kyle alluded to, Atlanta with the new reconfiguration, the repave, certainly lived up to the hype. It was a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun to cover. And for Chandler Smith, I'd be curious to talk to him this week after he's had some time to digest about what the team meetings were like, because he feels like he's kind of been, quote-unquote, screwed over a little bit by teammates, kind of finishing in that runner-up spot, not getting the help. So I'd be curious to see what happens after this all falls out.
I think it was, Chandler has a win.
Yeah.
And now the 51 truck has a win. And I'm sure John Hunter will get a win. So obviously these wins lock the drivers and the team owners into the playoffs at the end of the year. 10 owners will get locked in, 10 drivers will get locked in. It's a separate set of standings that I don't like talking about a whole lot because I think it confuses people. But
sure,
there is obviously an owners championship, and with Chandler already locked into both of those championships, this allows another KBM truck to get at least locked in to the Owners Championship. I believe Kyle's behind the wheel of that truck this coming week at the Circuit of the Americas. So, another shot for KBM to go to victory lane.
Got to do what's best for the company. So that ties a bow on that incredible race. Once again, congratulations to Corey Heim. We also had the Easter Bunny 150, a marquee event here at Hickory Motor Speedway just up the road from us in Concord, North Carolina, and twin 150s, so it's going to be a packed house each and every night. It was on night number one. Really turned out to be a demolition derby. I didn't know if I called that on night number one, but Ryan Moore somehow gets it done virtually unscathed, because I don't think any other vehicle in that race was clean after that 150 laps.
A rough and tumble affair. I believe 34 cars started. Less than half finished, and those that did finish had a whole bunch of damage, as you mentioned. Ryan Moore's been around a while, second-generation driver. Started in the old Busch North Series up here in New England, and has spent much of his career with PASS or the Pro All-Star Series, which sanctioned the event down at Hickory Motor Speedway, and took that 47 car once again to victory lane, holding off Cole Butcher finish. Joey Pohl had a good run in the third spot. So a very strong field, a very healthy field that got even more competitive and a little bit more star power for the Saturday night race.
It certainly did. And by the way, he was the first winner from the state of Maine. So check that one off in the box of up east. So that's pretty cool from up near your parts. Now, you mentioned star power. William Byron, not to mention this guy's busier than heck trying to figure out Atlanta Motor Speedway. He hops on a plane, gets there just in time for heat races on Saturday night number 2, the Easter Bunny 150, and then absolutely waxes them in the feature event. So safe to say Willie B's firing on all cylinders, because obviously he won again on Sunday in the Cup Series.
What is it about? And we never saw this pre-COVID.
Sure.
Hendrick drivers going out and running in other forms of motorsports, whether it be on dirt, whether it be on pavement. And now we're seeing it all the time out of the Hendrick Motorsports camp, led by Kyle Larson, obviously, with that incredible season that he had a year ago, and then went on to win the championship and won all the other short track races in between. Now we're seeing William do it. Just jumping on a plane, like you mentioned, heading over to the Hickory Motor Speedway for a Saturday night at the short track and claim the win. We've seen Chase Elliott do it in micros. Obviously Alex Bowman has run a lot on dirt with the World of Outlaws. So it's fun to see, and it's good for everybody, not only when they do it, but when they have the success like William had this weekend. Hey, I'm going to race at my Saturday night NASCAR home track, and I'm going to turn around 18 hours later, he's in victory lane at the Atlanta Motor Speedway in the most viewed motorsports event probably of the weekend. So love to see that, and hope we can see that more throughout the summer months.
Yeah, he picked up the win for Donnie Wilson, obviously legendary when it comes to short track racing. But, you mentioned Kyle, kind of cool to see it come out of the Hendrick camp. That was something Jeff Gordon said from immediately taking over his new role in the front office of Hendrick Motorsports. I want to get these guys out of their comfort zone. He watched what Kyle Larson's done, and granted, Kyle Larson's a once-in-generation talent, but nevertheless, I think everyone's gotten better just by getting out and running something that's different than running their normal Sunday day job, right? And I think we're starting to see it pay off. Bowman's got a win. Larson has a win. Now William Byron has a win. Chase Elliott, you got next, I guess.
And you know what? We're going to Coda this weekend, and that's where he won last year. Granted, it was in the rain, and I don't think there's any rain in the forecast this weekend. In fact, it's going to be sunny and I think 83 degrees or 87 degrees on Sunday. So different conditions, different car, but still a road course and a track that he's comfortable with. So it wouldn't surprise me if Chase continued to dominate for Hendrick this season, this early part of the season, 3 wins already. And it would be pretty special for Rick to get all 4 of his drivers to victory lane before the first, 15% of the season's complete.
Yeah, that'd be quite the accomplishment for sure. So we'll see what happens down there at Coda. But an awesome Easter Bunny 150. They had great weather here in North Carolina. And Hickory Motor Speedway is off and rolling for 2022. Now, we had also the Smart Modified Tour was in action. The Lucky Charms 99, it was St. Patrick's Day last week. So kind of keeping in the theme at Southern National. Long overdue return for Smart to Southern National, one of the iconic short tracks in the country. And I'll
surprise.
Yeah, surprise. I'll sound like a broken record with Matt Hirschman, Big Money, remaining perfect with the tour. I think he's won the last four tour races over the last 2 years. Kyle, it's kind of, the fight for second. Like, when you show up to a Smart race, are you just thinking, I got to fight for second at this point?
Well, at this point, I mean, he's entered 4 and he's won 4 in the last year or so for Matt. So if he shows up, there's a pretty darn good chance he's going to win. Max McLaughlin finishing in the second spot. One of the Bowman Gray heroes, Burt Myers, in third. Brandon Ward fourth, and former Cup Series champion Bobby Labonte continuing to show strength in the modified down south, rounding out the top 5. And again, for the Smart Tour, great car count, 27 cars taking the green flag. So that is good to see. Hopefully that trend continues as we get deeper into the Smart season. They're going to run a lot of races here in the next couple of months, because once Bowman Gray opens their gates at the end of April, the tour kind of quiets down a little bit, because they don't want to step on Bowman Gray's toes, because most of the drivers do both. They run a Bowman Gray on Saturday nights and also run the Smart Tour. So smartly schedules a lot of their races around the Bowman Gray schedule, which opens up here with the Hayes Jewelers 200 in about 6 weeks' time.
Yeah, it's all in the name, Smart being smart. So congratulations once again to Big Money Matt Hirschman. We'll see if his dethroning comes anytime soon in that series. South Boston Speedway, we documented last show, opening their 2022 season in a big way with their NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts weekly series, the Twin 65s on Saturday night for the late model stocks. And Lane Riggs just pretty much ran away with both Twin 65 races. He hadn't won a race at the track until winning the first 2 of 2022. So pretty good start for him.
Yeah, won both of them. Mike Looney finished second in race number 1 and race number 2. It was first and second the same in both events. Peyton Sellers, Mark Wirtz, Landon Pendleton, top 5 in the first race. And then some new names in race 2 with Mason Bailey, Thomas Scott, Jacob Borst rounding out the top 5 in race 2. 25 cars on hand there. So, again, a good start to South Boston, a track that has condensed their schedule in recent years, running for the most part doubleheader shows like what we saw last Saturday night with twin 65 lappers. So Going to be a competitive season, but nice to see Lane open the season with a pair of wins.
And it's also nice too, we document a lot of these races, twin 150s or 100 lappers. I kind of like these 50, 60 kind of sprint races. You don't get to see a whole lot of them just because I feel like these, longer races, these enduros, as I want to call them, for some of them especially, kind of seem to be more popular nowadays. But the sprint races are still my kind of thing. Being a dirt track guy, I love these 30, 40 lap, just all out sprint to the finish.
Well, you love Stafford because the longest race of the night is usually 50 laps for the SP Modifieds, and the longest race of the season is about 100 laps. But, I've never understood the twin 100 or the twin 150 concept because, one, there's a short turnaround. If you have issue in race one, it is hard to come back from a serious mechanical issue or a crash and be ready to go an hour and a half later in race number two. And the other thing as a fan is race number two, if you start the night with 18 cars and you wreck a bunch, race number two, 100 laps or 150 laps with 10, 12 cars, it's long.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see what happens, but neither way, South Boston had a heck of a good opening for their 2022 season. Just a couple of other racetracks had action going on. We had the Carolina Pro Lay Models at Franklin County. They had some internet issues. I know folks were trying to tune in live on Racing America, couldn't quite see it, but they got to watch the recap where Mason Maggio picked up the win. The Super Late Models at Citrus County, the Citrus 50, the 50-lapper, that went to Jared Irvin, and Florence Motor Speedway with their NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series, Cade Brown wins the late model race. Kyle, am I missing anything?
I don't think so. You got it covered, and I like how we're talking about more and more facilities opening up. It means, we're getting into the heart of the season, and that's a good thing.
Just in time for my birthday coming up on Saturday, the big 3-0, so good to see a lot of racing happening. We mentioned at the top of the show, Sammy Smith taking the ARCAEast win, 2 for 2 to start the year. Well, guess what? He's on the line. We're getting a word that he is ready to rip and roll, so we're going to take a quick break and be right back on NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by FloRacing.
Hey, before we continue the conversation, I do want to thank the folks at FloRacing for participating, for being our partner here. They're going to be with us all year long. If you are a fan of any kind of racing at all, FloRacing has you covered. I mean, it's wall-to-wall racing all weekend long. So we appreciate FloRacing, and you can get FloRacing. Just find them at FloRacing and check it out and get subscribed.
And joining us now on NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by FloRacing is the winner of the ARCAEast event down at Five Flags in Pensacola, Mr. Sammy Smith, driver of the number 18 KBM Toyota from Johnston, Iowa. Sammy, congratulations. It's kind of like deja vu, right? Winning at Five Flags as you were en route to your championship last year. Describe this one for me. It seemed like it was a rough and tumble battle there up front for first half of the race, and you kind of set sail in the second half.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on. It was a good win. We were able to obviously get 2 in a row for the East Series, but overall it was kind of a tough race. We struggled in practice a little bit. We weren't where we usually are. The guys worked hard and were able to get it good. We qualified fourth, and then kind of first part of the race we were trying to ride, kind of not burn our stuff up, and then we were able to. That second half of the race kind of dominate and set suit to the win.
How do you adapt as a driver when the first part of the day is not going that well? You qualify fourth. You may not be where you want to be in practice. How are you to adapt over the course of, say, the 200 lap event? You had several cautions to adapt. I believe 9 yellows slowed the event.
Yeah, it started to get a little bit frustrating there, knowing that the cautions were just. People kept spinning out, and there really wasn't many, reasonable cautions, just people just looping it and stuff like that. But it was kind of getting frustrating, but, I knew I had to just, I guess it'd be good practice for restarts. Taylor was really good on the starts, and then he got called there for jumping that last one, which he was kind of, ARCA kind of there's a line there. So you don't really have a box to go. So it's kind of tough. If you're the leader, you don't really have an advantage. So it's kind of tough for on both ends. If I was in second place, I'd try to do the same thing. But, he was caught jumping it. And then that, I guess the last 2 restarts, I kind of had it a little bit easier. I was able to just set sail.
Yeah, you mentioned Taylor and Taylor Gray, that is. Going into the season, I think people circled you and him as going to be the title fight. We've seen it so far through 2 events, you guys battling at the front. What's that like racing with him? And obviously, he's going to be your main rival, so how do you approach, each and every race now, knowing it's pretty much going to come down to you and him at some point?
Yeah, it's obviously I feel like racing him it will be my competition this year, and we race good together. We race hard but clean. We've raced hard and clean all the way up to this point, and I think it'll just get more intense as the year goes on. But I feel I enjoy racing Taylor, and I think he'd say the same thing. We want to challenge each other and try to get better as drivers, and I feel like we do that. So. He was able to get us at Phoenix, and we were able to get him last week. So I think, going into Dover, hopefully we can do the same thing.
That's right. Long break here before we go to Dover here next month. You've been in and out of Kyle Busch Motorsports these last couple of years. 18 years old. How does one get hooked up with KB?
Yeah, I started racing supers there when I was 15. Kind of got through there with the Toyota Racing Development program, and then I was there for a year, and then left, ran supers last year with Donnie Wilson Motorsports, and then ran ARCA with JGR, and then this year I was back there with the ARCA car, which was always good to be back. I'm actually 17 right now. I turned 18 in June, so
God, I feel like I get older and the kids get younger
right?
every week, Chris.
I know. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I was able to get back there. Kind of sucks we have to miss the first 4 races just because of my age, but
yep.
We'll still run for the ARCAEast Championship and then the Sioux Chief Showdown. And then when I do turn 18, I'll be able to run. I think it's just Michigan and Kansas, but looking forward to that, and hopefully we can go get ourselves another one at Dover.
What's the level of comfortability with KBM just between this, the late model program and now kind of jump starting their ARCA program? Is there any differences between the two, or is it just called, all one big happy family that operates like a machine?
Yeah, I think it's just one big happy family. Everyone wants to do one goal, and that's to win there at KBM. So, I feel like if we're doing that, we're doing our job. So we just keep working hard and trying to, obviously, team brings fast race cars to the track every week, and I do my job, and I feel like we can go out and win every single week.
And you just touched on it a moment ago. My next question about, all right, what have you hit on here? But I mean, it's Kyle Busch Motorsports. You just said you bring fast race cars every week. Led the most laps at New Smyrna to open the season. Led a bunch of laps last week. Yeah, obviously, you got to feel like there's a lot of positive momentum on your side right now.
Yeah, definitely feel like we have the contender every week. We go to the track to try to win practice qualifying in the race. And, I think that's all you can ask is for a driver and to do that every week. And then, obviously, hopefully we can do that every week and go get wins.
What's the learning curve been like in just 4 short years of really professional racing? I mean, you see a lot of these drivers, their career, it's almost lengthened a little bit longer than yours, going from where you were in Legends cars to now, in the ARCAEast program, and then obviously kind of getting some truck deals and stuff like that going. So what's been the toughest challenge for you, just like you said, being 17 years old, and you're already at this point winning big marquee races and going for championships?
I think probably just more experience. The higher you run up, I feel like I started with running pro late models and super late models. Really teaches you a lot just about racecraft and how to race and the longer races. And I feel like that's probably one of the biggest humps for me that has improved me to be the driver I am. And I feel like the more you just move up, it's just adapting to different cars and adapting to the drivers, the styles that everyone races. I think, and then obviously the bigger tracks, I don't have too much experience on the bigger tracks, but looking forward to getting on those this year and hopefully keep trying to improve.
Have you started to prepare for the bigger tracks yet? I know there's a lot of tools out there with simulation and all of that technology. Is that something that you've started to work on?
Yeah, it definitely has been. I've been working on running the sim at TRD. I was actually in the sim this Monday, running a little bit Dover and then running Road America. I'm running Road America this weekend. Road Atlanta, in the TA2 car. So trying to work on all those small things, the road course, working on trying to get better at bigger tracks and just trying to improve as a driver as much as I can. Sorry, I went away there, but just trying to do everything I can as a driver to be the best I can in and outside the race car.
Yeah, and you mentioned the TRD program, Toyota Racing Development. We've had so many of your cohorts, fellow young drivers kind of working their way up through that program. Is there a level of competitiveness between all of you guys and girls in that program just to I got to keep winning or showing, separating myself from the pack because there's so many of you and I know there's so many coveted seats out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think, it's it's everyone wants to be better than everybody else. And I think it's everyone pushes each other to be better, and try to, obviously be better than everyone else. But I feel like if you're winning races and doing everything right, on and off the track, I feel like that's what separates a lot of the average drivers to the best drivers. So hopefully, I can just keep doing everything I can to try to be the best driver I can be, and then try to keep winning races and championships for Toyota.
You mentioned some of the road racing stuff you're doing this coming weekend. Several gaps in the schedule, in the East schedule over the course of the season, as was the case last year. What else are you doing to fill the gaps?
Yeah, I'll be running a couple TA2 races this year, and then I'll be running, I think, 10 more super races as well. So trying to fit on every off weekend I can, get to the racetrack. After this weekend, I think have a couple weeks off, which would be good prep for Dover. It's Dover I ran there last year. We finished, I think, fourth we did, and it was definitely a tough track. I feel like I got a lot to learn, or I learned a lot last year and also got a lot to learn getting there. So hopefully we can go get ourselves a pretty cool trophy.
You mentioned, the late model races. I mean, coming into the season, right? Winchester 400, Music City 200, one at Southern National, all these big races. Aside from going for another ARCAEast championship, what's successful? What does success look like in 2022? What's your goals?
I think honestly, just to try to win as many races as possible. Obviously, win the ARCAEast championship and the showdown, and then hopefully go win those couple more marquee events in the super late model that I want to win. Snowball Derby, All American 400, and try to get the red. But I got the Governor's Cup in Winchester 400 last year, so hopefully we can just keep trying to obviously take it one race at a time, but to go win every race we get in.
Next up on the schedule, you touched on it a moment ago, and this will be my final question for you. April 29th, the Monster Mile, Dover International Speedway. They say it's like riding a roller coaster. You fall off the front stretch onto the banking and then climb out off of turn 2. One, is it like a roller coaster from your view? And 2, how demanding is that place?
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely describe it as just that. I went there last year for the first time. That was my first big track. I ran short tracks, and probably the biggest track before that was probably a half mile. But, obviously going there was totally different. It was definitely like getting in turn 1 and the feeling of you got to just drive it in deep and, roll a little bit, then get back to it. Definitely with the ARCA car with being less horsepower and a lot of downforce. So it was definitely a roller coaster, I would say. And I'm looking forward to get back there in a couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of my favorite tracks for sure, just to watch the level of physicality it takes behind the wheel of a race car. My final question for you, and especially this is interesting for young drivers like yourself who are not even 18 years old yet, just to see the different generation gaps. Who's been a big idol that you've looked up to as a race car driver? Maybe somebody you want to emulate, or maybe somebody who's had a big influence on your career thus far. Who's somebody that you could pinpoint?
I'd say probably as somebody that I looked up to or would always watch on Sundays was probably Jimmy Johnson. He's probably one of the harder working guys, and I feel like you got to work really hard on and off the track to be successful, and he definitely did that, and it showed. He obviously wasn't the best in Xfinity, but then when he moved up to Cup, he took advantage of his shot and was really productive, and he's probably one of the best there is. But definitely wouldn't be here if it was without my sponsors, TMC, Pilot Flying J, Allstate Peterbilt, Brenda Group, and then Toyota. They've helped me a lot these last 4 years. I've been with them, and obviously just trying to continue to grow and try to win races and championships for sure.
Well, so far you were on the right track. Best of luck the rest of the season. We'll look forward to catching you up down the road.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. That was Sammy Smith, driver number 18 KBM Toyota in the ARCAEast Series, 2 for 2 to start the 2022 season. We'll be right back here on NASCAR Coast to Coast after this.
Hey, before we continue the conversation, I do want to thank the folks at FloRacing for participating, for being our partner here. They're going to be with us all year long. If you are a fan of any kind of racing at all, FloRacing has you covered. I mean, it's wall-to-wall racing all weekend long. So we appreciate FloRacing, and you can get FloRacing. Just find them at FloRacing and check it out and get subscribed.
Thanks again to Sammy Smith for joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by FloRacing. Couple news and notes to get buttoned up here on this week's episode, including those of you fans of the SRX series. Well, you're going to have a chance to input who's going to race at the Nashville Fairgrounds coming up this summer. They're going to have 6 late model drivers for you to choose from, some of the best in the business, all that have ties to the Nashville Fairgrounds, whether it was a former race winner or champion. And you're going to decide who's going to race with the big boys in the SRX series. Kyle, I saw the list. It's Brittany Zamora, who's the first woman to win a premier race there. Cole Williams, Dylan Fecto, the past champions, Michael House, Bubba Pollard, and Stephen Nasse, the 2-time Super Series champ. So how cool is this to get the fans involved? I mean, we obviously talked about these different racetracks, maybe awarding the winner of a major race, getting a chance to race SRX, but now it's up to the fans. You like the idea?
I do. It's something we haven't seen before, and it allows, like you mentioned, to get the fans involved and get them excited for that event there this summer. 6 really great names that have made, obviously, a name for themselves at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. I don't know who I'd vote for.
I was about to put you on the spot here. You got Brittany, Cole Williams, Dylan Fecto, Michael House, Bubba Pollard, and Stephen Nasse.
It would be a toss-up between, I don't know. I'd probably vote for Brittany.
You're about to hurt 5 people's feelings here.
I think I would vote for Brittany.
Okay.
I think the only other lady running this year is Hailie Deegan. And I don't think there were any last year. I don't think. Hailie ran.
Yeah, Hailie did
last year.
Yeah.
So I would vote for Brittany, and I think a lot of people are going to vote for Brittany just because of her popularity, one, and the success that she has had at that racetrack. Don't overlook a Bubba Pollard, somebody that we've been saying for years deserves a shot to be at that type of level, racing against those kind of drivers, and a Stephen Nasse for that matter. So, I mean, none of the 6 would surprise me, but I'd probably stick with Brittany.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick, and I think everybody on this list is a good pick for what it's worth. I'm not going to commit to one right now. I would say Bubba just for he's been around for so long, kind of like, I'll beat this, like a dead horse here, but Cody Swanson, if you look at just the talent in terms of open wheel, but not even open wheel, just short track, ace on pavement, has deserved an opportunity to get to the next level for so many years. But like Bubba Pollard, he's getting up there in age a little bit, compared to some of these younger talents. So if I'm going to have a sympathy pick or somebody who I'd like to see run, I think it'd be him. Certainly everybody on this list is worthy, but I'm going to kind of wait and see what happens in the next couple weeks with some of these races coming up, especially when you have, the Spring Sizzler on the docket coming up. Kind of see who starts to shine, maybe separates themselves a little bit, and that will lean a little bit for me to vote for them. Voting does start April 3rd until May 6th, so you still have a little bit before voting is open. You can do that on SRX's page. So
none of those 6 will be in the Spring Sizzler. I can tell you that right now.
Oh, that's a good point. Well, we'll figure it out. There'll be some races coming up. The
fans will figure it out.
The fans will figure it out. Well, I'm a fan too, right? I can.
You are.
So anyway, that was really exciting news from SRX. So definitely be on the lookout. April 3rd is when voting begins. Winner will be announced actually at the ARCAEast event there on May 7th. So if you're paying attention to the ARCAEast race at Nashville Fairgrounds, that is where the results of the voting will take place. Speaking of ARCA, Rajah Caruth, we talked about him on last week's show post-Phoenix, how impressive we were with him and his young career running for Rev Racing, being up there in the top 3 there at the final restart, having a shot to win. He's going Xfinity racing, Kyle, for Alpha Prime, 6 races. Are you surprised that some of these young talents now are getting these kind of opportunities here this early?
No, well-deserved opportunity for Rajah, a young driver that we have watched again for years come up through Legends and Bandoleros on like Tuesday nights, I believe, at Charlotte Motor
Yeah.
Speedway years ago, and then come up through the late model ranks and running for Rev Racing these last several seasons in the ARCAEast Series, running well, proved himself a week and a half ago at the Phoenix Raceway, running up there with the big boys all day. Fun to watch, and a well-deserved opportunity. Look forward to seeing him on track in the national spotlight. And I think he's another one of those young drivers where if he can get the right break, and they're hard to come by, those
sure.
top seats are secured. But if he can take a second or a third tier seat and have a good day, a top 12, a top 15 day, he's going to turn a lot of heads.
Absolutely, and he'll have that first opportunity April 2nd, at the Richmond Raceway. Also, he's going to be driving at Dover, Pocono, Kansas, and Martinsville. So be on the lookout for Raja with Alpha Prime Racing. And also making some headlines this week, a former ARCA driver, Brad Perez, or Brett as many of him call around the garage area, going to make his Truck Series debut this weekend at the Circuit of the Americas for Rheum Brothers Racing. Again, a guy who's been all over the spectrum. We've watched him run Legends at Charlotte, Bandoleros. He's run a Spec Miata a few races on the road courses. He's ran an ARCA Menard Series race as well, but he's on his day job. I mean, this guy is everywhere. He works for Mullins Racing in the shop. He works as a tire specialist for Rackley War in the Truck Series, a social media personality. It's always cool to see some of these rags to riches story kind of happen, and a big opportunity for him to make his national debut.
And that's what fans have been wanting, right?
Yeah.
They want the drivers that we watch on Friday, Saturday, Sunday to come up through their local short tracks and the grassroots level of the sport. Now we're seeing it. We talked earlier in the show with William Byron kind of going back to his roots. It's nice to see these guys turn the wrenches and kind of develop their personality, their resume, and then get these opportunities. You know him. Unfortunately, he came into the mix after I left in the summer shootout stuff. I mean, when I was in Charlotte, I was at summer shootout every Tuesday night for about 12 years. But you say he's a great guy.
Oh, he's fantastic. I mean, not only just his talent behind the wheel, because while the opportunities haven't been as multiple as probably as what he would want, anytime he gets a shot, he's fast. But also on the sim, he's really good. Runs with me and a few others in the industry at the Monday Night Racing League. Kyle Busch has been in our races, Dale Earnhardt Jr., a couple big names, Xfinity drivers, and he gets up there with the best of them and rubs fenders for the win on a weekly basis. So, and granted, yes, it is iRacing, but look at what iRacing has done for the sport and how much some of that talent, like Raja Karuth, who runs with us as well, is translated over behind the wheel in real life. So really good opportunity for Brad, and certainly excited to see what he could do. Kind of like I said, a rags to riches story, and you mentioned it, kind of being a mechanic first and then being a driver. It's kind of like Ricky Bobby, just on a not as Hollywood scale.
Kind of,
a little bit. We'll make that connection. Finally, before we get wrapped up here on episode number 8, we do have some racing coming up this weekend. Certainly, a lot of local tracks are opening their doors, but we also have ARCA West back in action. Round 2, Irwindale. Kyle, love Irwindale Speedway. Man, I'd love to see the National Series get there at some point. But what can we expect from the West Series at Irwindale?
I knew where you were going before you even said it about the National Series going to Irwindale. A great racetrack, about 6 lanes wide, all of which are raceable. I went to a West race there a few years ago. It was back then the K&N West Series, and they put on a great show. I think they ran twin features that night with a pro late model race in between. Good event then. It's going to be another great race this week. Jake Drew, I think, is the driver to watch right now. He led the way for the West contingent at the Phoenix Raceway a couple of weeks ago when they opened up their season with the ARCA Menard Series, part of a combination event. So keep an eye on Jake Drew, and it'll be interesting to see what other West drivers, what other West teams challenge Jake, that is, at the front of the field and could contend for this championship. And again, another short season, so you have to strike early. Irwindale race 2 and the first real standalone race is going to be fun to watch this Saturday night.
Absolutely. That race will be 10 o'clock Eastern time, 10 p.m. Eastern. So Drink that extra cup of coffee on Saturday. FloRacing is the place to watch it live. USA Network will have it tape delayed on April 11th. We also have the Spring Nationals, the second annual Georgia Spring Nationals coming up Friday and Saturday at Cordell Speedway, Southern Super Series event. And Kyle, not only do we have some big names in there, but Johnny Sauter is in it, baby.
Always fun when Johnny Sauter shows up at the racetrack. Obviously, didn't have the best of time the last couple of years in the truck, so he's going back to where he is having fun again, and that is in a super late model at short tracks across the country. And Johnny Sauter in the event this weekend, and he's not alone as far as big names. You know, Bubba Pollard's there, obviously, Steve Ignacy, Hunter Robbins, who we had on the show a few weeks ago, Jake Garcia. Very healthy entry list for the 125 lap event for the Southern Super Series. Pro late models also on the card for 75 laps. Was a great event a year ago, and should be another good one this weekend. Sunday, I believe, is when they're going to run the pros and the supers.
Yep, and it'll be on Racing America, powered by Speed51.tv. Don't forget, Bubba Pollard won the Speedfest event back in January, beating Chandler Smith, and so we'll see if Bubba can go 2 for 2 this year, but obviously a star-studded field as always. Kind of hoping Johnny Sauter plays spoiler and gets up there and gets himself a big win, especially like he documented. Tough truck series last couple of years. It'd be nice to kind of see him get some momentum on the short track scene. Smart Modified Warrior 99 is coming up this weekend at Caraway Speedway, Saturday, 8:30 p.m. on FloRacing. Again, we just talked about him coming off a big weekend as well with Matt Hirschman. I didn't get a chance to look at the entry list. Not sure if he's entered. I would assume so. If you've won 4 in a row, you might as well go enter 5. So we'll see if he'll show up.
I'm assuming he'll be there. I don't think they wrecked any cars last weekend. So a quick turnaround. And I know a lot of those Southern teams, they don't have the resources that the modifieds up here in the Northeast have, but only 3 cautions a week ago, and I believe it was for all minor stuff. So hopefully they get a good car count. Somebody is going to dethrone Matt one day, right?
We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I may start betting the field at this point if I'm going to put money on anything, just to hope for something. But Matt Hirschman, for sure, they call him big money. He's earning a lot of it here in 2022. Another big series to kind of wrap things up, the Cars Tour, late model stocks, and also pro late models. We'll see if the Quapple show continues as Caden and Carson swept Caraway in the season opener. They're at Hickory Motor Speedway, like it's just up the road here from us in Concord. Saturday, CarsTour.tv. Again, the thick of the series, or the thick of the season, I guess, is kind of really getting rolling. And so far, like I mentioned, the Quapple brothers have set the tone in both series. We'll see if anybody can take them on.
Yeah, Carson and Caden each getting a win in the late model and pro late models. Bit of a different format this year without the supers, but still Quapples in victory lane. And it'll be interesting to see what they can do at Hickory this week. I think there's a pretty good shot that at least one of them will be back in victory lane, and have to tune in to find out which one. But you're right, we're in the thick of the season. Tracks are opening. All that's left is unlocking the gates up here in the Northeast, and we're getting closer.
I'll try to send some, I don't know, we need to just fast forward time for you up there so we can start talking about racing up in your neck of the woods.
In due time, because once it starts, it's not going to stop until October.
So enjoy it now. Enjoy it now.
Exactly. 4 nights a week up here, usually Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So, and some Sundays. So it's nonstop between the tracks up here in Connecticut, within just 20, 30 minutes from me. So can't wait. In fact, the Icebreaker at Thompson Speedway is just, 2 weeks away, a week and a half away.
That,
so
yeah,
it's close.
Well, but you're still busy. You're going to be on the road with the Motor Racing Network at the Circuit the Americas for NASCAR weekend, covering the Camping World Truck Series. Are you excited to go back and see some of these guys that we've covered in the short tracks try to turn left and right and everywhere else through the city of Austin there at that beautiful facility?
I am. It's a fantastic facility. The forecast looks much better than last year. I was soaking wet before I even got to my turn position last year. Completely drenched. We were on the tower in the infield. And if you've ever seen the Circuit of the Americas, you know the tower we're talking about. It's high, and it's also windy, and we were almost at cloud level during the first half of the truck race last year. That's how low the ceiling was. But by the second half of the truck race, it was a completely different event. The sun had come out, the track was drying, the temperatures went up about 15 degrees. We were shedding the jackets and the sweatshirts halfway through the race. So, it's going to be hopefully a bit more consistent this year, a full dry event, and I can't wait to see what what NASCAR can do, all three of NASCAR's national series, on a dry COTA.
Looking forward to it. Kyle, safe travels. Once again, from Killingly, Connecticut, that's Kyle Rickey. I'm Chris Wilner. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by FloRacing. We'll see you next time.